Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, and any and all in between. I appreciate it. Couple stories that have taken place over the last couple of days. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So I guess the first thing would be the fact that Camille Sokolowski has received an official 3-year ban for testing positive for testosterone after the fight he had with Frazier Clark, which I believe took place last year. I want to say October, but I could be between July and October last year. I'm sure it was one of those. Now, he got a 3-year ban because he admitted to the charge. He said he took a supplement which had, I guess, testosterone in it. So maybe it was like a testosterone booster or something like that. But he acknowledges that he took it, and that I don't know if they even went down the process of strict liability as such. But ultimately he just said, yeah, like I took the supplement, it had it in it. Cool, hold my hands up. He got a 3-year ban. The 3-year ban it's weird because he announced his retirement, I think, about 4 or 5 months ago. Now, could that have been because he knew the ban was impending and he would have still, been active had he not have failed that test? And then subsequently he might still be fighting now, but I guess him thinking, well, I can't be out of the ring for 3 years as a journeyman, I'll make no money, and outside of that, obviously by the time I get back in, no one's really gonna look to use me anyway, and I may not even have the same survival skills that I have now. So it's interesting if, was the retirement because he knew that this ban was coming, or did he just genuinely have enough of the game? It's a interesting thing to think about. But ultimately, a lot of people say, look, how often do you ever hear someone say, yeah, it was me, I took it, I admit? Whereas in this one he has. So on one hand, like I've got to give him credit, because most of the time people, protest their innocence. Oh, I don't know how it got in there, blah blah blah. He's come out. So you got to kind of say, well, how often had this happened? Was it a one-off? Was it like, I'm getting towards the end of the career now, I need to make sure I don't get stopped so that I can get these paydays, let me just try and take a quick something. The sessions are getting harder in the gym. It's weird. I don't really know how to process it in that sense myself, but I guess what I can say is he was retired anyway, so yeah, I guess it's I guess technically you could say it is a lifetime ban, because I don't think he's coming back. If in 2025, 2026 he all of a sudden he says, oh, I'm making a comeback to do something, then it was only a retirement because of the ban. But yeah, it is what it is. It's I haven't heard anything about it thus far on the major platforms, which is interesting, but then again, maybe it's not, but we'll talk about that later on. But yeah, Sokolowski, I mean, good servant to the game, but it is what it is. That's the deal. And when you choose that path, there's only one outcome. So nice knowing you. So interestingly enough, we all know that Lawrence Coley activated his rematch clause for the rematch with Chris Smith and the WBO Cruiserweight title back in, I think it was June, possibly July. At this point, there's been no word on when that fight is due to take place. Now, the funny thing is, obviously, Chris Smith keeps saying, well, look, I hope I can fight maybe like Mateusz Masternak, or I can get another sort of fight in there. He keeps saying, well, Lawrence isn't necessarily a great watch and whatnot, which is totally the truth. But the funny thing is here is that legally he's enforced his mandatory rematch. So they're saying, oh well, Sky don't want to pull it on really because it's not going to be good TV. They don't think it's going to do good numbers. But all of that's irrelevant because he's activated a rematch clause. Contractually, it has to happen. And I think you get 6 months from the time that you activate it to it having to take place. Now, I don't know what I guess the rulings are in terms of a broadcaster stalling out the contracts. Like, can they do that? Does it then get put up to bid for by other broadcasters? Because I'm assuming that the rematch itself doesn't have a particular broadcaster attached to it in the paperwork. I mean, it might do, but I would assume it's just to face that other opponent. And if the broadcaster does stall it out, I'm almost certain that then becomes a legal situation that the boxer can, take to court and sue the broadcaster, or maybe, I guess, sue the other participant, who would be Chris Billam-Smith. And ultimately, Chris wouldn't then be liable to pay for it because he's not the guy that puts on the fight. Maybe you'd have to sue Boxer, and then by default, that would have to sue Sky because, Boxer's deal is with Sky. So they've made no necessary mention about it, but they keep saying, yeah, it's not a great fight and it's not gonna do good numbers, and he's not the most friendly to watch, which is all true. But I just keep thinking to myself, well, at the end of the day, you don't have a choice. Like, it's unless he withdraws from his stipulated contractual rematch, you have to do it. Whether it's whether Sky are gonna take a bloodbath on it or not, as far as I'm aware, like, that's irrelevant. Again, I could be wrong, so if anyone knows anything about sort of contract law and how that works out, please let me know in the comments, because I would like to know. But to be honest, I feel as if it's just better you kind of get it out the way now. If you beat him again, you ain't got to worry about him again. If you don't beat him again, then I guess he's got his championship back, and maybe he can parlay that into another opportunity, maybe to unify down the line. But I feel that stalling it out is only going to cause more problems, moving forward. And yeah, I'm sure legally it's going to be a bit of an issue. But again, I don't know. It just seems a bit weird that they keep sort of stating how much of a bad fight it's going to be. Whereas if that's the case, just kind of get it over and done with, so that you can maybe make it up in the very next one. But hey, let me know down below what you think with regards to that. Also, quickly, for anyone who's interested, there is some news supposedly regarding the Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou exhibition special event in Saudi Arabia in October. So it says that supposedly there's the Fabio Wardley and David Adelier fight will still take place, even though Fabio did have to have stitches in his chin. Apparently he said no, he's going ahead with it, regardless of the damage, which I'm surprised that would be allowed based on just a time frame. But hey, if he wants to go ahead with it, I'm not one to stop him. And obviously, I guess the money there is it's worth taking the extra risk. Can't really complain or disagree with that. So that's that one. Also, supposedly Joseph Parker is going to be taking on Simon Keane, who's a 6'5" Canadian heavyweight that I've seen a couple times. There's no real huge names on the resume, but I guess he's had some decent wins. But I think he's 25-1 or something like that at the moment, or 22-1, somewhere between there. It would be, well, I feel like it's Simon Keane is one of those guys that should have been tested with one of the up-and-comers, but Joseph Parker seems to have got that assignment. So hey, that's a payday for him, and I'm sure that is a fight that he will win fairly comfortably. Simon Keane isn't terrible, he's not bad, but I do think Joseph Parker is levels above. I know a lot of people may disagree, but I don't. Also, on that card, supposedly, Martin Coley and Carlos Takam are supposed to be squaring off. Now, it's a good fight in one sense, and obviously both of them have in their sort of in their same arsenal that they both beat Tony Yoka. They were both his last 2 defeats. But I feel as if Carlos Takam, obviously he's towards the back end of his career, but he gives it his all. Like, he's a really sort of solid guy. He's an awkward style for anyone, but someone like Martin Coley, who, where he is in the rankings, the age he's supposed to be, realistically should be, you know, faring against other contenders. You know, I heard rumors that, you know, he turned down an Arslanbek Makhmudov fight. Also rumors that there was a FA Jagba fight which didn't get made. Frank Sanchez, now obviously the Sanchez one maybe I can understand, but it's like, if you're a competitor, if you want to, you know, get to those world titles, or you say you want to fight anyone such and such, like, well, these are the fights that you need to have to get you up the rankings. Fighting Carlos Takam, I don't think does anything for your ranking, because I'm not sure where he is in all of the governing bodies at the moment, but he's definitely not in the top 10 of any of them. I think he may be 11 to 12, like, or 11 to 15 I should say, whereas Coley is in sort of, you know, 7s, 6s and those type of areas. So it doesn't really do anything for the rankings, and it's not even a keep busy fight. So I feel like he needs to get a move on and, you know, basically fight guys in and around he needs to clean out the division if he wants to be a champion. That being said, though, I do know that Carlos Takam will give it his all, and it should be a entertaining fight for as long as it lasts, if it doesn't go the distance. But you guys will have to let me know, because I won't be watching the event. Last but not least on this one, announced earlier on today around about 2 o'clock. We kind of heard the rumors about it a few weeks back, but it's official. Conor Benn will be fighting, and will actually be fighting this weekend in Florida on the undercard of Richardson Hitchens versus Chun Cepeda. Now, I've seen obviously a bit of there's some uproar about it. There's also some you know, some support. Look, so you guys saw the video that I put out the other day where I said I actually think he's guilty, but not necessarily from the perspective of he intentionally or knowingly took you know, prohibited substances, but that he took something that he was advised to take and then probably subsequently found out that it had stuff in it that it shouldn't have had. Hence why he said certain people had to leave the team in that interview. That's my take on it. But that being said, he's been out of the ring for about 18 months now. That's 6 months shy of a 2-year ban that you could possibly get from UCAD. Now, UCAD, whether they chose to adjudicate on the findings or not, I'm not 100% sure of how that works. He has gone through 2 processes. We do know that. Now, whether they had the defense of the second one, that it would be based on jurisdiction as opposed to you know, this is what was in the system, this wasn't in the system, like, I didn't take anything, this is how my body breaks stuff down. Either way, we do know that his provisional suspension was lifted, therefore meaning he was permitted to box. So even the BBBOC, I think, because they haven't initiated the appeal, or the appeal hasn't come to a resolution, I don't think they have the power to stop him boxing even over here. I just think it's a bit of a sticky situation. However, according to Eddie Hearn, and you know, whether you believe Eddie in this or not is totally up to you, but he says that the ABC, so the American Boxing Commission, They obviously believed that he was suspended. That was proven to be wrong. The Texas Commission is where he has his license, and the Florida State Commission is where the fight is taking place. Eddie says that the ABCs spoke to the BBBOC. Is he suspended? If not, like, is he actually allowed to box? They said no, he's not under any suspension at this point. I guess pending our investigation, which hasn't been called as of yet. So the ABC have said that. I think the Texas Commission have said that they wanted to see testing over sort of the last 12 weeks, which apparently has been supplied. And I think the Florida State Commission also said they want a rush test to take place now, and I think this was like 9 to 10 days ago, and I think that test obviously was taken, and they must have got the results back to clear that. So they've obviously said yes, we're happy for him to go through and have this bout. So he's going to be facing Rodolfo Orozco, who I think is like 32-3 or something like that. He's no great shakes, but I've seen him a couple of times. He's definitely durable, and he does have a punch. That's one thing, and one thing we said a lot about Conor Benn is that he hasn't really faced many punches in his career. Well, Orozco can crack, and it's going to be taking place at 154. Now, question: should he be fighting? As far as I'm concerned, yeah. If the ban, even though I felt like, yeah, he was probably guilty of something, he's been out of the ring for 18 months. The ban has been lifted. Whether you agree with it or not, cool, but there's nothing legally preventing him from fighting. And even if you want to do the whole strict liability thing and say, he really would have only got a 2-year ban anyway, especially as it wasn't a UCAD test that caught him, whatever. So it's one of those ones where at this point in time it's time to just kind of let it go, like let his name just be what it is. If he's got to be the villain for the next year or the rest of his career, just let it happen. Obviously he's going to be under the most stringent testing moving forward, so there can't be, if there's any other slip-ups, then yeah, he can get a 4-year ban straight without being able to appeal it, more than likely. But at this juncture, he's clear to box, in terms of he's not under any suspension. He's not, he's boxing within the territory that he holds his license. They've seen, I guess, enough evidence, or they've done enough of their checks to be happy enough to let it go. So cool. I'm not happy, I'm not angry, like, it is what it is, isn't it? He's on the undercard, like, people need to stop talking about it now, it's done. And ultimately, if you had any issue with that, then I guess you got to take it up with the BBBOC, who supposedly put in this appeal but haven't sent it off yet, because that's what we've heard, is that it hasn't even been set in motion to have a hearing date. So if you're just going to kind of drag your feet with that, well, let him get on with his career until such a time as you do have the hearing. And if the suspension comes back into force at that point, well then cool, he's going to have to serve another ban afterwards. But again, being out of the ring for 18 months now, bearing in mind that he passed VADA tests, he passed UCAD tests in that time frame as well, and I'm assuming he's passed a lot of UCAD and VADA tests prior to that. 18 months seems fairly adequate in this particular instance for now. Like I said, if it happens again, cool, 4 years, lifetime, whatever you choose, like, no issue. But yeah, this whole saga needs to get put to bed now, especially when there's so many other people that are getting caught and you don't hear their name being talked every single second. So let's not do the hypocritical thing anymore. Just kind of keep it moving, move on, and see what happens, and see what he looks like over the weekend, because that'll be what's the most interesting. But for right now, I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you guys very much for watching. Leave your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as I said earlier. And that's the Hardcore Casual out.